Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. I know that I am, and that several Americans are having wonderful days as well. President Trump went on a clemency spree yesterday, setting some people free from prison, also erasing some people's criminal records, giving them a fresh start. So far, President Trump has set a unique precedent because, generally speaking, presidents wait until the end of their terms before they start handing out these types of free lollipops on a daily basis. But one of the people that President Trump set free yesterday was none other than former Illinois Governor Blagojevich. We've got some details about that situation and also a very interesting thread from Rosie Memos. Now, we've also got some information on Bill Barr. Bill Barr was out there speaking about Section 230. I'm sure you guys know what that is because it affects us on this platform and on Twitter and other social media platforms on a daily basis. There may be some changes coming for Section 230. It looks like the Trump administration is looking into that. Also, we've got some wonderful news from the Durham investigation. He has expanded his probe into Robert Mueller's special counsel activities. That's right, golden child of the left is going to be taking the Durham challenge. And then finally, President Trump has spoken clearly about a violation of the Logan Act. There is a Democratic senator who secretly held meetings with Iran. That's illegal. You can't do it. Well, we're going to look into all this and more, guys, and we'll be right back after a very brief word from our sponsor. Alright guys, I am here yet again to tell you about Raid Shadow Legends. It's one of the coolest new games on the PC and Mac. It's super easy to download, it doesn't take up a bunch of space, it does not require a super gaming computer, and all it takes is a little bit of time and you will gain the skill. Let's go check it out. So, I've been battling bosses, growing my stable of champions, and leveling up, and if you haven't played yet, the time to start is now. What I really love about this game, besides the graphics and the RPG playstyle, is that there are so many ways to play. You have a story mode campaign, dungeons where you fight bosses to gain artifacts for your champions, the arena to fight against other players online, and clan bosses for super mega boss battles that benefit your clan and raise your standing among others in the game. You can get new characters by entering the portal, selecting a shard from the left, and then click summon and you'll raise up a new character. Elhain is still my favorite character. She's got an awesome elven look, she has this cool crossbow, and her spells are very powerful. Basically, if you've got the time, there is no shortage of things you can do in Raid Shadow Legends. Now, Raid on your PC or your Mac has the same great core gameplay as the Android and iOS versions, but the new PC version has a ton of extra graphic goodies. It's amazing. You have to check out the graphics. They're so incredible. There are so many cool animations and cinematics and control customizations for ease of play. The difference is incredible and it's really, really noticeable. It's a cross-platform game, so when you install the game on your computer, you can continue playing on your mobile device. So basically, you can enjoy playing Raid anywhere at any time. The download and registration runs really smoothly. It only took me a few minutes. And don't worry, you don't need a super powerful processor or a BA gamer's computer to enjoy the speed and the graphics. And look, you've got over 400 champions to collect and emphasize. If you want to join me, I'm part of the members-only clan, and it looks like we've got about 10 spots left. So level up and apply today. What are you waiting for? Go to the description below, click my special link, and get 50,000 free silver along with a free epic champion to start your journey as part of the new player program. Good luck, and I'll see you there. Well, thank you guys for sticking around. First of all, today we're going to go over the pardons and clemencies. As I said, generally speaking, presidents wait until the very tail end of their second term or the end of their first term if they didn't get elected to a second term before they start handing out pardons and clemencies. Some of the pardons and clemencies that President Trump have handed down so far have been actually really good deeds. People who maybe received sentences that were far too stiff for what they did. People going to jail for many, many years for, relatively small drug crimes when you look into it. Also, people who may have been prosecuted for political reasons. And that's why we are looking at these today. There were 11 people that were granted clemency by President Trump yesterday. And the very first one that we're going to discuss is Rod Blagojevich. Rod Blagojevich was the Illinois governor, former Illinois governor, and a Democrat who had served on Celebrity Apprentice. But the reason he went to prison, not for being on that show, was because he was accused of trying to sell Hussein's seat in the Illinois Senate. Now, there have been some things that came up about this case in the past, but because it was under the former administration, it was under Renegade's administration that he was convicted, all of that information was squashed. And now another really interesting person that was granted clemency by President Trump yesterday was Bernard Kerik, or Bernie Kerik. He was the former New York police commissioner who served under the terrible events that happened in September back in 2001. He was accused of, I guess, trying to trade off of his work that he had done at that time. He got some free work done by contractors. He made some money, a little scratch on the side, and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison. And I believe that Blagojevich was sentenced to 14 years in prison, and he served 8. So we're going to take a look at Rod Blagojevich. Why might he have been sentenced so harshly and given such a dark sentence under the last administration? I think you'll be interested to know. So as I said just a moment ago, Rod Blagojevich was accused of trying to sell the Senate seat of the once young Illinois Democratic senator who would very quickly become president after entering the political world. And Rosie begins, remember, when the DOJ made an oops and the redacted portions of Blagojevich's court documents were revealed by using copy and paste, and they proved that Hussein was completely involved. Good times. Now, Renegade apparently wanted Valerie Jarrett to take his seat. Let's take a look at these notes here. It says Renegade may have overtly recommended Valerie Jarrett for his Senate seat. Blagojevich's defense team basically alleges that Renegade told a certain labor union official that he, Barry, would support Valerie Jarrett's candidacy for the Senate seat. Jarrett, referred to as Senate Candidate B, is now an advisor to the president, or was at that time. Now, here is the redacted portion. Yet, despite President Renegade stating that no representatives of his had any part of any deals, labor union president told the FBI and the United States attorneys that he spoke to labor union official on November 3rd, 2008, who received a phone message from Barry that evening. After labor union official listened to the message, labor union official told labor union president, "I'm the one." Labor union president took that to mean that labor union official was to be the one to deliver the message on behalf of Renegade that Senate Candidate B was his pick. Labor union official told the FBI and the United States attorneys that Renegade expressed his belief that Senate Candidate B would be a good senator for the people of Illinois and would be a candidate who could win re-election. Labor union official advised Barry that labor union official would reach out to Governor Blagojevich and advocate for Senate Candidate B. Labor union official called labor union president and told labor union president that Barry was aware that labor union official would be reaching out to Blagojevich. So despite his efforts to deny, definitely it looks like 44 was involved in the whole setup to try and get someone specific into his old Senate seat. Rosie continues, the redaction snafu was caught by independent journalists, as usual. Anyway, Barry has a 302 out there. Wouldn't that be great to read? Now, remember the shady Syrian that went to jail and was a big Democrat fundraiser? No one ever remembers this SHIT because Renegade was scandal-free, or at least claimed to be. Makes you wonder what really happened to this dude, Christopher Kelly. Christopher Kelly was former Governor Rod Blagojevich's top fundraiser and a good friend who pled guilty to fraud, and then he died mysteriously just days before he was supposed to report to prison. Now, the president understands that the governor would be willing to make the appointment of Valerie Jarrett as long as he gets what he asked for, Harris said in testimony. This is another Blagojevich aide right here, and he claims that Renegade knew about the whole thing. Now, She says, release the transcripts. And let's take a look at what this says. The president spoke with FBI agents about the Blagojevich scandal soon after the former governor was arrested in 2008. Blagojevich's legal team has tried to compel the FBI to release a transcript of the interview it conducted with the president, but the Bureau has declined all requests because, of course, who was in charge of the FBI during the renegade administration? Well, that would be Renegade himself. And then she ends with, "Oh, bummer, lied to the FBI. Witness testimony implies that Barry misled the FBI." This is from Blagojevich's legal team. Let's take a look at that. So in a motion filed Wednesday, this was back in 2010, the former governor's lawyers asked the court to order the government to turn over reports from the FBI's interview with the then president-elect in December of 2018. That would be Renegade himself. Now, Mr. Renegade has stated publicly he was confident that no representatives of mine would have any part of any deals related to the seat. But the motion notes that this week, former Governor Blagojevich, Chief of Staff John Harris, suggested that Barry actually had direct knowledge and communication with emissaries and others regarding the appointment of his Senate seat. So we have multiple witnesses here in this situation that state that Renegade, Hussein, 44, Barry, Obama, whatever you want to call him, he was directly involved in the appointing of this seat, attempting to get his friend Valerie Jarrett. When he was unable to get her into that seat, he ended up allowing her to basically run his administration through the policies that he enacted. Now, she says one more thing. Barry has broken new ground by becoming the first U.S. leader to face questioning by federal agents between Election Day and inauguration. Scandal-free, my rear end. So let's take a look at a quote from former Governor Rod Blagojevich on his release from prison. Now, Rod Blagojevich was seen here speaking on Fox News about Bill Clinton's 1994 crime bill, the very bill that ensured that he was able to be put away with such a harsh sentence. He calls this out, and then Fox News cuts away. They are not interested in hearing it. But I think it's interesting for us to hear because it shows that Rod Blagojevich is not afraid to speak out. And I do believe he will be speaking out, and that he's already spoken out to President Trump. And I'm sure that we're going to get that information in short order, and it's going to be very, very useful. Let's take a listen to Governor Rod Blagojevich.
Unfortunately, because this is a president who gets things done through his leadership and with the help of organizations like Cut 50, President Trump was able to build the necessary bipartisan support to pass the historic First Step Act, a new law that begins the process of reforming a broken criminal justice system and putting it into the racist injustice caused by that racist 1994 crime bill. Now, as for me, obviously, I've got...
All right, that is the former governor.
Oh, he said the R word. Let's cut away. It is not something that's permissible to say if you are a person of Rod Blagojevich's persuasion. But as I said, I think Rod Blagojevich is going to be speaking to some very key people, the president at the top of that list, because the information he possesses about that former Illinois senator, that former president of the United States, I do believe it's going to be very, very handy in the months to come. Let's continue. Now, based upon my previous assertion that Governor Rod Blagojevich would be speaking to President Trump about this situation, and now President Trump's tweets about this situation, I think it's safe to say that maybe he already has the information. President Trump tweeted here, Rod Blagojevich did not sell the Senate seat. He served 8 years in prison with many remaining. He paid a big price. Another Comey and gang deal. Thank you to Lisa Marie Booth, who really gets what's going on. And that was from Fox News. Apparently, she must have covered that. Now, it's interesting to note that James Comey would have been the leader of the FBI at this time. And as James Comey was also the leader of the FBI when President Trump took office, took a big part in trying to remove President Trump from office, and also had many parts to play in silencing the political enemies of Renegade during his administration. I do believe that Rod Blagojevich is going to be helping to take these people and lock them up and give them their own comeuppance. One more thing on Rod Blagojevich. All right, now I mentioned that Comey had a part to play in locking up Rod Blagojevich, but it looks like Robert Mueller and the rest of the gang also had a part to play as well. President Trump's release of Rod sends a message to these deep state criminals. Now, President Trump's commutation of former Illinois Governor Blagojevich may have more to do with dirty cops Comey, Mueller, and Fitzgerald than anything else. Now, yesterday, when President Trump commuted the sentence of former Illinois Governor Blagojevich, he claimed the charges against Blago were unfair. President Trump commuted the sentence on Tuesday, and in his first interview at the Denver International Airport, Blagojevich thanked President Trump and noted how Democrats don't treat him, President Trump, very good. Let's go ahead and take a look at this from Jim Hoft.
Well, I'm not going to say a lot. I'm going to say something tomorrow, and frankly, a lot to say tomorrow at 11 o'clock. If you can, come on over to our house. I can't wait to get there. It's been almost 8 years. But it's been a long journey, but I think the appropriate thing to say is that I speak for Patty, for my daughters Amy and Annie, and for me when I express our most profound and everlasting gratitude to President Trump for doing what he did. He didn't have to do this. He's a Republican president. I was a Democratic governor, and my fellow Democrats don't treat him very good. So all I can say is I think this is the ending of the first act of a two-act play. And tomorrow begins the second act. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done in the second act so that wrongs that have been done can be righted.
When you heard the news, I have 3 questions. I'm going to throw them at you at once. Sure. When you heard the news, what went through your mind, number 1? Number 2, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get home? And number 3, what message would you have for folks at home who, still support you?
I didn't let them down, and I never gave in to the false accusations and the railroading that was done to me and my family, because if I did that, I would have violated my oath of office and my commitment to them. I wasn't just some businessman who may have done some things that maybe you make a decision because it's practical, a business decision, and you say the things these people want you to say, and then they go and give you a light sentence. I wasn't going to do that because I was in a different place. I was an elected governor twice by the people of Illinois. They trusted me, and I didn't let them down. And so fighting back was a way to not only stand up for my own reputation and for my children, and for my wife, and for my late parents who raised me the right way, but it was a way to fight for the people of Illinois against corrupt prosecutors who have too much power, who are accountable to no one, and who break the law to do their jobs because it enhances their careers. But I'll have more to say tomorrow, and I think this is a new day, and I think that there's a lot of work that we can done. And there are a lot of communities in America that know what this has been like, to be able to be persecuted and railroaded by a corrupt and frankly racist criminal justice system.
So Rod Blagojevich making no bones about it right there. He was innocent, and they attempted to railroad him. What does that sound like? Doesn't that sound like the situation with General Flynn? Doesn't that sound like the situation with a lot of other people in President Trump's sphere? They try to railroad them and get them to accept smaller charges just so they can destroy their reputation. And if that doesn't work, then they're just going to put him away for good. He said something very interesting, the end of the first act, and today it's the beginning of the second act. He is firmly in the camp of ending corruption and taking power away from these people who have taken it from us. President Trump knows this. Rod Blagojevich, I believe, is probably going to end up being a Republican now and is definitely a patriot. You guys, this is just the beginning. We are going to see a lot of fireworks in the days and weeks to come. Rod Blagojevich, I sure hope that the president and his team are going to keep him safe because this man knows a thing or two. So, Blagojevich was imprisoned by 3 deep state crooks prominent in the fraudulent Mueller special counsel. That would have been Robert Mueller himself, James Comey, and Patrick Fitzgerald. And there's an investigative reporter who's been following along with their activities, Marty Walters. In August of 2019, Walters predicted that Rod Blagojevich could be home by Christmas of 2019 after President Trump might have commuted his sentence. Well, it was only off by a couple of months. Now, Walters claimed in August that the deep state led by Comey and Mueller did the same thing with the fraudulent Mueller investigation sham as they did in the past. They created distraction, diversion, and disinformation. In the early 2000s, they created Flamegate to distract and divert from the billions lost in Iraq and the weapons of mass destruction narrative that got the U.S. into the war in Iraq. Now, in the mid-2000s, they created the Rezko-Blagogate scandals to cover up for Barry's corrupt actions early in his administration and while in the U.S. Senate. And the Mueller investigation distracted from the many crimes involving Renegade and the Clintons and was in the same mold as the prior sham investigations. President Trump may know all of this. I think he definitely knows all of this, and this is why he pardoned Scooter Libby from the Flamegate hoax, and now he's commuted Rod Blagojevich's sentence. So who was Patrick Fitzgerald? Well, he was the special counsel who led the investigation into the convictions of a Chicago real estate broker and Rod Blagojevich. Now, once upon a time, Tony Rezko was a fundraiser for both Republicans and Democrats in Illinois, and the space there between the parties was no thicker than a Cubs ballpark ticket. So basically the uniparty in Illinois. Whoever is getting the money is getting the power. Tony was a particularly active fundraiser for Rod Blagojevich, and whose campaigns he personally donated $117,652 and bundled other contributions amounting to $1.4 million, almost 1.5. So while FBI agents and the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, Patrick Fitzgerald, were investigating Rezko as a means to gather evidence against Blago, Rezko was also one of 3 members of the Campaign Finance Committee for an Illinois state senator running for the U.S. Senate, none other than Renegade himself. Valerie Jarrett, then president of a firm that managed public housing, and Allison Davis, Barry's boss in a law firm that catered to Chicago slumlords, were the other 2 members of the Barry for U.S. Senate Campaign Committee. Now, Waters went on to report how Loretta Lynch used someone by the name of Bernard Barton, who changed his name to John Thomas, who was arrested for crimes in New York and was later wired up to spy on Chicago politicians. This sounds pretty familiar to how an individual named Felix Sater was used in the Mueller hoax. Waters wrote in the American Thinker back in 2016, DOJ officials with direct knowledge of the Burton Thomas mole would have included Patrick Fitzgerald and senior officials in the USA's Long Island office of the Eastern District of New York. The New York list would have included a now familiar name, Loretta Lynch. From 94 to 99, Lynch was chief of the Long Island office and then top assistant to U.S. Attorney Zachary Carter. In 1999, President Clinton appointed Loretta Lynch U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. And back when this article was written, she was the Attorney General of the United States, having been nominated by none other than Renegade himself. Now, among others likely to have indirect knowledge of an investigation into a U.S. representative who became the Illinois governor would have been James B. Comey, U.S. Deputy Attorney General from 2003 to 2005, and then Director of the FBI. And he was also a longtime close personal friend of Patrick Fitzgerald, who's actually godfather to one of his children. All this does not definitely answer the initial question. How did Renegade emerge from Chicago untainted by political corruption? But it does suggest one plausible explanation. He had a lot of help, and all of these players were certainly there to help prop him up. Now, of course, Mueller was the head of the FBI through most of the 2000s and before Comey took over. Also, James Comey claimed that Fitzgerald was his attorney after it was suspected that Comey shared classified information with Fitzgerald during the Russia hoax scandal. Now it's starting to come back to me. Blago was set up by the deep state, and President Trump more than likely knows all about it. The same crooks that attempted their coup on the Trump administration sent Rod Blagojevich to prison for 14 years. President Trump commuted Blago's sentence and may be sending a signal to these crooks. I think that is exactly what he's doing. President Trump knows about all of these cover-ups. He was just quoted as saying that he wants to investigate anything having to do with corruption. And that extends far beyond the current administration. We're going to have to go back. We're going to have to go back. We're going to have to go back. What have we been told? We have it all. We know everything. FISA goes both ways. These people have not only been caught red-handed, but we have used our investigative powers and the investigative techniques of the wizards and warlocks to go back many years because their crimes extend throughout the decades. You guys, have no fear. These people will pay. But remember, it takes some time to go back and make a case over decades of time. All right, I've bitten off a little more than I can chew with all of these stories, so we're going to go over the last ones very quickly. The next one is about Section 230. What is Section 230? It's a section of the Communications Decency Act of 1996, and it states that with some exceptions, internet companies are not legally responsible for the content they host if it was published there by someone else. Now, the difference between a publisher and a platform is that a publisher moderates the content that is on their platform. But a platform allows people to publish what they want, and then they are not liable for the content contained therein. Now, a very famous case back in 1995, a case involving Stratton Oakmont, the firm founded by stockbroker Jordan Belfort in Wolf of Wall Street. They sued Prodigy because someone on a Prodigy message board posted some defamatory posts about Stratton Oakmont. Well, Prodigy lost the suit because Prodigy moderated its message boards, which meant that they were legally responsible for the content contained therein because they decided what stayed and what went. Well, this is the big argument with social media platforms today. Are they platforms or are they publishers? Until not too long ago, they were definitely platforms because they weren't moderating the content. But now, clearly, we see people getting their accounts deleted. We see tweets being withheld. We see these publishers telling the users that they can't put what they want to on their pages. So I think it's pretty clear, and I think to a lot of people here that watch this program, they also believe it's pretty clear. Now, I think it's also very clear that Bill Barr is of the same opinion. So Barr and the DOJ today were discussing online platforms that hide behind this type of legislation. And in regards to Section 230, Bill Barr said no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider, which means that the way these publishers are behaving today is outside the bounds of Section 230, and therefore they are not protected by it. They will need to change their behavior if they want to ensure that the DOJ doesn't take action against them. Because when they allow certain posts to stay on there, like say posts from people that they approve of, and then they take away posts from people they disagree with, they are clearly publishing that information themselves. They are giving the okay to certain things and then saying that other things are not okay to do and say. So that takes them outside the bounds of 230. Now, President Trump at one time in the past had given an executive order limiting the powers of Section 230, but I think that this move by Bill Barr, speaking about it openly, means that there is going to be another change coming to this, or at least a change in the way the DOJ behaves and the way they treat these platforms and their users. All right, now in a developing story, John Durham has expanded his probe into the activities of Mueller's special counsel. He's interviewed several FBI investigators who worked on Mueller's team, and this is reported by Paul Sperry. This further suggests that Durham's probe may be expanding into the activities of the special counsel's team, Sperry said. Now, Mueller was appointed as special counsel in 2017, and Rudy Giuliani referred to those FBI agents working for Mueller as stormtroopers. Most of them are known to the public. However, two of those officials on Mueller's team have been most visible because of the messages that came out. That's Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, with this information, the fact that Durham is interviewing all of these FBI agents involved in the Mueller probe, I think it points to the fact that Durham is going to be definitely taking action against these people. Now, as it's developing, we're going to have to continue to watch. But I think it's going to be a good show. And finally, President Trump is speaking out a Democratic senator who violated the Logan Act, he said. Now, he suggested that Democratic Senator Chris Murphy violated the Logan Act when he secretly met with Iranians last week in Germany. He had no business doing that. On Monday, Molly Hemingway of The Federalist reported that, according to a source, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy secretly met with Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif during the Munich Security Conference last week. Murphy attended the meeting with with Javad Zarif without first seeking permission from the State Department, and that's undermining the U.S. government and the Trump administration's agenda. On Tuesday, Murphy admitted that he secretly met with the Iranian foreign minister. President Trump said, "I saw that Senator Murphy met with the Iranians. Is that a fact? I just saw that on the way over. Is there anything that I should know? Because that sounds like, to me, a violation of the Logan Act." Remember, the Logan Act is what they were trying to go after General Flynn for in speaking to the Russian ambassador. However, that was definitely within his purview as national security advisor to the president. Now, following the death of that general over there in Iran, Senator Chris Murphy lashed out at President Trump for going after him, even though he was responsible for the deaths and maiming of hundreds of U.S. soldiers. Murphy has a history of supporting the mullahs and was one of the biggest supporters of Renegade's Iran nuke deal. Murphy's a routine speaker at the NIAC Council, and just like former Secretary of State John Kerry, Murphy defied the Trump administration and engaged in shadow diplomacy. Ironically, Murphy has demanded that General Mike Flynn be investigated for violating the Logan Act because he spoke to the Russian ambassador on behalf of the incoming president. He said any effort to undermine our nation's foreign policy, even during a transition period, may be illegal and must be taken seriously. So I just have one question. When does the investigation of Chris Murphy begin? Because based on his own opinion, that's exactly what he did. Well, guys, I don't know how else to say it. We have these guys backed into a corner, and they are certainly up against the wall. The deep state is running scared, and every day it's a new story about how the Trump administration is beginning to turn the screws, put the pressure on these guys in the same way that the pressure was put on him and his allies over the course of the last 3 years. I just want to remind everybody, we just hit 193,000 subscribers, 7,000 more subs, and I'm going to be giving away two $100 gift cards to 2 lucky winners. It's going to be for the store of your choice, wherever you want to go. All we need to do is get to 200,000 subs, and we need to do that by getting your help through liking, sharing, and commenting on the videos. That's also how you're going to get entered into the contest. I'm going to pick 2 winners, one from the video with the most likes and one from the video with the most views. And once I get those winners, I will announce them here in my video, so you guys will have to stick around for that. I'm going to need you to reach out to me if you are one of the lucky winners, and I'll get you those gift cards sent out right in the mail. So, as always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, it's Red Pill. Just one more thing. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who has taken the time to support this channel. If you'd like to see some ways that you can support the channel, you can always check the show notes in the pinned comment of this video below. Whether you like, whether you share, whether you make sure that your notifications are on, any way that you support this channel means so much to me. I could not be doing this without you, and I could not do it without your help. Without people like you, this channel would not exist, so thank you so much to everyone for all of their many means of support. Don't forget to check out the merchandise store that is also in the pinned comment, and I will see you guys next time.